No, it's still. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It's Friday the 13th,
It is Friday the 13th.
2026, and we are welcoming you all back to Most Important Seconds After the Pit. This is going to be episode 5:11 a.m. I am sitting here with my good friend Keely. What is going on?
What is happening? It's like that. It's Valentine's Day, so all the kids at Valentine's Day tomorrow, so all the kids are celebrating today. But I'm over here like I've got the Jason heart. It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I forgot. I just looked up and that's right. It is Friday the 13th. And I will say, my sisters, I try to do this with them if I get a chance to, but my sisters will well, of course, they're at work right now, but when they get out, they kind of do like a marathon of Friday the 13th movies.
Oh, on Friday the 13th?
Yeah, every time there's a Friday the
That's
13th, they try to do it.
that's awesome. I like to hide from Friday the 13th because I come from years in public.
That's right. Yes, years of public safety, and Keely's screen just
Oh,
froze, but I'll
oh,
finish up
am
what
I
she was
back?
saying. Yes, you're back now. Go ahead. You said you come
I'm,
from
I'm
years of
back.
public safety.
Public safety. So Friday the 13th is not the day. That is if I could find a way to not be in on that day, Friday the 13th, and then Friday the 13th when it's a full moon
Oh, dude, right? And then the
for
trifecta, if someone says the Q word
Q
at the
word.
same time,
I still
yes.
cringe saying the Q word. Like, and I'm out of it for like a year. Am I frozen again? Oh no.
No,
Okay.
no, no, you're
I'm not
good. You're
frozen.
good.
All right.
I
All right.
so
All right.
I've
Good.
I've talked about that enough that my kids sometimes, if I even say the Q word, they'll go, "You said the Q word. Something's gonna happen now."
It's so true. Like the curse of like those things that go on. And, like for those of you out there, quick introduction. I'm Keely, 25 years in 911, 30 years in public safety. If you're joining us new, you have no idea who I am, and I'm sorry about that. There you go. There's my pitch. But I honestly like there are certain words, like certain things, certain superstitions that run rampant inside of a 911 center, or even like for me in the
Mhm.
field in the ambulance. Like baseball players wear dirty socks. I think there's something to be said, like maybe a dirty uniform, or like you have that one person who's the black cloud. My
Yes.
nickname was Jinx. That was my nickname because for a long time, if I was working, something, something was happening. Like,
Oh, man. I I have said in the past that I would like to work with you. Now I'm not sure, but, to jump on the the bandwagon there really quick, or piggyback rather, off of, Keely, I am Ricardo. Hello, everyone. Host and creator of Within the Trenches podcast, and we're here today like we have been for the past few weeks. We want to give you a quick recap of everything that we're doing here and why. But what I want to do really quick here is I want to show you a quick video, because this also goes with what we're doing, and we can go from here with this. So let me cue this up really quick on the screen so that we can play this, and we'll jump right in. We just finished the screening for episode 2 of season 2 of The Pit. What was this like for you?
The Pit is so realistic. So I was so excited to see what they're going to come out with and what was going to happen in that hour. Coming from my experience, I know what we would do, so I want to know what they're going to do. It's 100% realistic, and if you really want to know what healthcare professionals have to go through every single day, I would highly suggest watching The Pit.
We are big advocates of Rapid SOS, and obviously we know that they're big advocates of us, and that makes me feel good. That it kind of highlights our professionals at our center and gives them the due that they deserve.
It was so great that they were able to provide us passes to this event. Our folks, our first responders, the ones who make this happen every day and bring our folks down and let them see firsthand how well they're respected.
It's definitely a must watch. Yeah, the Pitt's one of our favorites ever since it came out. It's nice to have your city represented on a national level.
It was very neat to be able to watch the Pitt with other like-minded people who understand what's going on. So definitely very, very awesome to be here.
So there you have it. That was a first responders react to what we were doing out there. And Keely, if you can kind of talk through for those who are watching, listening, if they have not seen this for the first time or don't know what we're talking about, or even what this is about, kind of walk them through what we were doing out there before we get into the episode. And really quick, that I want to, before you jump in, I want to throw this on the screen. One of our homies here, Chris, is like, "Good morning. Didn't realize it was Friday the 13th." Yeah, exactly.
Chris, I'm telling you, right? Like I'm over here like maybe we should have delayed this, done this tomorrow. I don't know. Like it's insane that we're up here on a Friday the 13th, and I can't remember if like I've had one since I've been out of public safety. So like, all right, just a little scared. But yeah, so to talk about our lovely people who were just on the screen in that video. So those were some of our guests, just some of our guests that we had invited to Allegheny General Hospital, which is located in Pittsburgh. We at Rapid SOS had a really great opportunity to sponsor a event to recognize and just celebrate first responders. And it was such a great experience for us to be able to, first of all, sponsor the event. They had everybody from the hospital came down to this one room in the hospital. It was actually really beautiful, like the hallway. I know you got to see it. It was beautiful. It was like this wooden, super historical hallway, and they had like some historical cases on the side that talked about like the evolution of healthcare. So that was really very interesting. But like the cool thing was HBO Max really wanted us to bring in some first responders, some field responders, because it's that whole chain of response, right? From the 911 call all the way through the pass off to the ER, and then all the way up to the OR. We had ICU nurses that were there with us. We had all sorts of staff. The coolest thing was watching some people come that were just scrubbed out of the OR to come in and spend some time. We had Figs there as well. They were also a sponsor. Figs is like scrubwear, like so they were getting personalized under scrubs, which was super cool that they were able to come be a part of. There were massage therapists there. There was some ice therapy, like almost looked like, for those of you in the field, almost looked like mask trousers that they were putting on people and letting them just relax in these zero gravity chairs. It was just such an amazing event, and there were so many people. And it started at like 7:30 in the morning, and then it moved all the way through the evening. It was absolute chaos in the room. They had mocktails that were named after certain characters of the Pitt, of the show. So it was super cool just to be able to spend the day with them, get to know them. They got to know who we were, what problems we were solving for the field, to try to help all the way through that pass off to speed up care for patients in the field. And so they were really intrigued, and it was really nice. And then to be able to watch it. And I think Tawny said it, where it was like watching it with like-minded individuals. It definitely changes the dynamic of watching a show like that when I'm not just sitting at home watching it by myself and calling stuff out, or like, it's just different when you get to watch it with somebody that has experienced it. It's really nice to be in a whole room of people who, we were all laughing at the same thing, which in a normal environment, I bet people would be like, "Why are you laughing at that, you weirdo?" But it felt good to laugh along with people in situations that maybe we shouldn't be laughing at.
Yeah, this is very true, because you and I watched the episode that we're talking about yesterday together, and I would say certain things, and like you would respond, and I could see you like moving forward on a couple of things, and I'm watching as well. So us to be able to experience the episodes together was great. But yeah, I I agree as well. To be able to be there at the hospital where it's based off of, where some things are filmed as well, and be in that auditorium and just watch with everyone. It was one of the coolest moments to be able to go and do all of that. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we had the chance to participate. So shout out to everyone who's a part of that, and we're going to be jumping in here now
Mhm.
to talk about the episode and connect some things, people, technology, the episode, all of this stuff. But we have a couple guests in the green room right now that I am going to pull up on screen, just have them introduce themselves here really quick, and then we're jumping in. So, our first guest here,
And the first ball up.
you got hello, welcome to the stage.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good. We are
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friends.
so for those who are watching and listening, Amy, if you can give just like a quick overview of your public safety background and what you do now.
Sure. So, like both Keely and Ricardo, I started many years ago sitting answering 911 calls. So, started in the operations side, call taker, dispatcher, CTO, supervisor, all the things. Had the opportunity to move into a couple different roles within my time in 911. Went and worked for our 911 authority, or in Illinois, we have emergency telephone system boards. Got involved in all things technical, administrative, implementation, project management, and things like that. And then been at Rapid SOS for the last 6 years. So trying to, bring that next generation of public safety into your operations every day. My title is kind of confusing, Director of Public Safety and Enterprise Solutions, but that just means I get to work with a lot of the incredible technology providers out there and really help them understand what your job is, what your the large demand and expectation that is on you, and help them bring solutions to you in ways that are going to best serve both you, field responders, public safety. And part of that is really kind of what we're talking about, what you guys were just talking about on the Pitt, like how do we engage that full ecosystem of the response aspect and make sure that every point along the way is getting that right information. So yeah, really looking forward to chatting with you today.
All right, awesome. I love that. Love what you do. That you're here, and the fact that you're able to come on and also bring your experience to where you work and all. It just that's awesome. That's what I love about um, the private side as well, is that we end up, folks like us, and a lot of others in 911 get pulled in, and we're really shaping life-saving technology, which is awesome. So I love that. Thank you for being on. And then our next guest here, he was with us last week and we had so much fun. And it sounds like, from what we did last week with the pieces of paper, our guesses here, it might get changed a little bit. So let me bring on Ben. How's it going, sir?
Hey, everybody. I feel like one of those patients in the pit that is there for a couple of episodes. So I feel like, maybe I have a longer story to tell. Maybe you guys will keep coming. I'll keep coming back. But I'm glad to be here. I'm Ben Johnson. I lead our product team here at Rapid SOS. Last week, I did a bet on the board of what the disruption was for the Code Black. And I said staffing. But, I was thinking about it. I don't know if you can see this. Cyber attack is that's my new bet. So happy to talk more about that. But I felt like, and I can double down on my money.
I was going to say.
I my $20 bill somewhere. So I'll make it.
I mean, we just talked about this in the last episode. And in episode 5, they were like, what can I do to change my bet? You got to double down. That's the rule. So you got to double down now if you're changing.
I'll double down. It's on record. It's recorded. We'll put 40 to it.
Amy, what do you got? What do you got? What do you think is going on at the other hospital there?
I put me on the spot. You guys had time to think about this.
Way to go, Keely. Way to go.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to go with maybe Westbridge has their own mass casualty event going on.
All right.
All right.
You're
All right.
You're
Mass
there with me.
casualty.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Yeah.
To remind everybody, I went with
Yep.
outage. I went with an outage that they're experiencing, and they're diverting their patients on over. So, as somebody who worked in the field, let me tell you, hospital diverts are a headache. Because you got patients that are like, I want to go to different hospital, XYZ hospital, and you're like, so sorry, they're on divert. Where else would you like to go? And that's such a pain for us because we feel like we're kidnapping the patient and taking them over to somewhere else that they don't want to be. And it's a weird dynamic because technically, if they ask to go, you're kind of like, you got to take them where they want to go, and unless it's like a strain on your system. So imagine the strain that's being felt, like overarching in all of emergency services right now with that happening. So
Right.
it's got to be insane. I mean, you're putting pressure on another hospital. Your 911 system is inundated right now. Your field responders are inundated, and they're also having to apologize because it's like, so sorry, you got to go to a hospital that's already got to wait.
Yeah,
No.
and again, just for everyone who's watching and listening who didn't tune in last week or that episode, because of the code black that was called, everyone starts taking bets on what exactly it is. And I think in this one that we're going to talk about now, the pot has gone up to about $500 already on people trying to guess to see what's going on. So last week we talked about these different scenarios, and we started out with outage, and we compared it to 911 and how that worked back then and how it works now. We talked about real-time interoperability, but yeah, I agree with the strain with things like that, especially back before any of this stuff. Like I had said last time, I remember people from the other agency, they would send someone, they would send a dispatcher, and it was like 25, 30 minutes or something away. So they're hauling to get to us. We're taking calls and we're trying to do this, and then we have one person there sitting at an open console. And then, of course, for whatever reason, dispatch gods, universe, however you want to put it, they're not taking anything because nothing else is coming in. So they're just kind of chilling there. So we ended up going over that. But what we want to make sure to do as well is to say, spoiler alert, because we're going to be talking about some stuff. If you haven't watched episode 5, now this is last week's episode. Just a reminder, we're staggering episodes so that we're not ruining things for people who may not have had the week to see it, because man, life sends everything everyone's way, right? And we can't control it. So anything could happen. And last night was episode 6, but we are going on episode 5, which is 11 a.m. in the episode, because this show is 15 episodes, it's 15-hour shift, and they're doing that each hour for each episode. So this one that we're talking about is 11 a.m. And Keely, we kind of wanted to start with a favorite character who oh, it sucked. As soon as we saw this part, I thought, oh man, but there was a comparison. There was something that had come up. So hit us with it.
So Louis. So they ended episode 5, and Louis has coded. For those of you who don't understand what a code is, basically he is pulseless and unresponsive, and they're starting CPR on him. And Louis is like the fan favorite in the ER because he's kind of like the wallpaper in the ER, where like he shows up, and they're not really annoyed that he's there because he's a decent guy to work with. He's just got some medical issues and can't stay away from the drink, and it's okay. Like we love him, we adore him. He's easy to work with. He's not a pain in the butt. He's just somebody we see all the time. And as somebody who worked in the field, and I've had the response, and I can attest to this even as a 911. When you're in the headset, you've got callers, frequent flyers, right? That's what we call them. They call all the time. You're talking to them all the time. And for some of us, it's really annoying. It depends on the caller, right? Like we all have, and there's probably more than one of them. And immediately when you pick up the phone, the sound of their voice, because as dispatchers, we get really used to the voices in the field that we hear, and not the voices in our head. We're used to those too. But we have these callers that we're constantly dealing with, people who maybe don't have an emergency, but are definitely somebody that we deal with a lot. And I used to have a favorite patient, and I not only would I listen to this caller when she called, but even when I responded on field, and all she wanted to do was dance. She would call us and just ask us to dance, because apparently when she was in her heyday, she was a dancer. And so she would call us, and then we would go to the house and we would spend time with her. She had a really creepy doll collection, but she was really kind and she wasn't annoying. She just wanted somebody to talk to. She wanted somebody to, connect with and spend some time with her and make her feel not lonely. And I think this is what Louis is essentially, is he's like this person who like doesn't want to feel lonely. And I was a person in the field. I liked to tech, which meant I like to be with my patients. I like to be in the back with the patient. I didn't always drive. Don't get me wrong, driving's fun, right? Whirly gigs and driving people off the road, it's fun. But I enjoyed actually being with the patient and spending time with the patient. And it didn't matter how gory, although code browns were definitely not my favorite thing, which happens in this episode as well.
That is true.
It is a code brown. And it's definitely, those probably my not favorite, but all the other patients, I got over everything and I just like to tech. But the problem with teching is that means I was eyeball deep in charts some days, right? And we see this with Santos, right? Like she's being ridden by Dr. Al Hashim. She's like, Hashimi, she's like, you got to get caught up with your charts. If not, you're going to repeat the year. And it's like that pressure, especially when you're already on a 12 or 16-hour day and you're chart deep, you're nose deep in your charts, right? And like dispatch is not laying off those tones. And you're going to go back out the door and you're not even finished with your current chart. Now, I come from a time in the Stone Age where I was still, nailing out my charts on the stones. So like I was handwriting my charts. Don't get me wrong. We get to a point in my career. I definitely graduated to a charting, capability where we were walking around with our tough books and we're charting. But there's also like things that have changed to technology, right? Where 911 can push some of that information over already and it flows into the CAD and we can collect that and copy paste it into our chart. So I definitely got to see that shift in technology. But what's interesting is, there's two things here that I think connect very much to technology. And number one is like that constant interruption. In 911, we're constantly being interrupted, right? By the non-emergency calls, by the 911 calls, by the things that are coming in. And so there's this flow of like non-emergency automation that's happening right now that we're able to kind of alleviate some of that pressure. Doesn't mean replacing a seat. It certainly means alleviating pressure. And it would have been really nice if maybe I could have sent in a robot to go dance with my patient. But of course that wasn't an option for me. But here it is, maybe in 911 there is an additional option. Then there's another conversation that is brought up is about AI and translating those calls for us or transcribing those calls for us. And we've seen this in this series with the Pitt. Translation is a thing that could happen easier with some of the things, as well as this transcription, right? Like your calls are coming in. So I'm going to pass it over to maybe Ben or Amy, probably Ben first, to talk about these products that are out there and how it sort of correlates with the show and what it can do to help our people in the field and to kind of move forward. And I'm sure Amy has a lot to say on the subject because we also see the naysayers, which is your Dr. Robbie, who is like, you know what? This is going to mean they're going to expect a better standard and not replace the people. So it's like, let's talk about this and let's not shy away from these conversations because they're very real. So, I think there's just something to be said about how this can help. And it would definitely help Dr. Santos at this point.
Yeah. I thought this was such an interesting part of the episode. And I think it directly parallels, and I'd love to hear from Amy on some of this as well. But one of the things I hear from a lot of our customers is Harmony is listening live to calls and can do auto transcription, auto translation, and one just interesting anecdote that we had from a recent conversation is there was a supervisor was on the floor. There was a really long call, like a 15-minute call. And he was asked to follow, you normally you'd have to catch up on it and sort of figure out what happened, what went on. With Harmony, he's able to open up the call and there was a summary of everything that's been going on. And it quickly got him up to speed, made, what would have been maybe 5 to 10 minutes scrolling through audio, trying to listen, like hear what was going on, to just be aware of like what's going on the floor, to like a 10-second sort of event. And so I think about like what Dr. Hashimi says of like, hey, you don't have to just like be sitting there entering all this information. Start like doing dictation. This AI app can help you, and it makes providers happier. And really the point is to give them back more time so that they have more time with, their families, and they have less time sort of catching up on administrative work. And so I sort of really like, I was watching the episode. I immediately sent Keely and Ricardo a message. I was like, this is, I think, such a great parallel to, just one of the examples of what, how Harmony is helping dispatchers, supervisors, et cetera. So.
Yeah, I really dug that as well as we were watching it, and I had said to, um I had said to Keely as we're watching Santos getting interrupted and interrupted and interrupted, I immediately flew back to dispatch when you're trying to triage all of these calls, and the majority of them are like these non-emergency ones, right? That are coming in, and you've got all these 911 calls, but you're the only one that's there. So as I was watching it, it actually, and Keely, I didn't say this to you, but it was making me a little jumpy a little bit because I thought, man, I remember when it would be super busy. And if we had something like that to triage some of those non-emergency ones so that I could stick with just the emergency ones that were going through, because my old center, I mean, we had a team, right? But it wasn't the smallest center, but our minimum was 3, okay? And there would be times where, especially working midnights, as soon as I would get in shift change and people going home, it would be crazy, and I'm the only one on phones trying to triage and going through all of this stuff. So, watching that happen to Santos as she's trying, especially because she's being threatened that she's gonna have to repeat her 2nd year, right? I could feel that, and I thought, "Man, this is gonna be a good spot for us to talk about this because there's technology now that is there that can be utilized, as you said, through Harmony and everything, so that it makes it that much easier for those taking those calls and, being able to focus on those emergencies, having AI, like, sitting here, like, "I'll help you out. I'm right here for you. I'm here to assist." And so I love that part, and I'm glad that we're talking about this as well. And, Amy, for you, your thoughts on this, please.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels. You're absolutely right, but I think I come from a group of old school 911 side, right? I think all 3 of us here do.
Yeah.
But we in 911, our reaction is to go to the extreme. When wireless calls started coming in, we can't take all these calls. We can never do this. We don't have the staffing to do this. Guess what? We have a lot higher call volume today. They are almost all wireless calls, and we have less people in those seats than we did 25 years ago. And then text to 911. We can't take text to 911. We're going to get overwhelmed with text to 911. We actually don't. Text to 911 is a valuable technology that is there, especially for people who it's unsafe to call. Maybe they're not verbal. There's a lot of scenarios. It's a tool that every 911 center should have. I'm very disappointed that we don't have every 911 center using that, but it's a valuable tool that has not overwhelmed our communication center. And then video, we go to the extreme. Well, I didn't sign up to see blood and guts. I didn't sign up to see a murder scene. I don't know of any 911 center yet that has used video to ask them to turn on their live video during a homicide call. Maybe it's happened, but not aware of that. There are actual very valuable use cases for using video. How far is the fire from a building? Can you show me a description of, a vehicle? There's a number of things. And so same thing with AI. We don't have enough people, but we're going to cry, AI is going to take my job. Well, it's actually just going to help you do your job. So I think when we get into the mindset of trying to think, how can this actually help me? And how is the reality going to be versus going to the extreme of, I just don't want change, so I'm going to find a reason that we shouldn't do this. We can actually start implementing, how is it going to work for my agency, my center? And that might be different than my neighbors, and that's okay. But, all the different things that were just described and really what we saw play out on episode 5 of, it can help the The hospital, they're understaffed. They clearly don't have enough people to do the things that they're trying to accomplish, and they're running all over the place. So, but they still have to keep up with that administrative work. So if they have a tool that can help them, and yes, that human oversight is a key component of that, right? So I can't just talk to AI, let it transcribe everything and walk away. I still need to put eyes on it. I still need to verify the information that is captured, but that saved me critical time. And now either I can help another patient more quickly, or maybe I can take a break. Maybe I can grab a cup of coffee for, 30 seconds. And one of my closest friends, sadly, she just moved to Florida on me a couple weeks ago, but she has worked in the healthcare side as an Epic trainer. And if you're not familiar with what Epic is, if you're listening, it's an electronic health record system in hospitals and healthcare systems used, nearly 4,000 healthcare systems across the US. So over the last number of years, we have had so many parallel conversations about our jobs. I'm in public safety, she's in healthcare, but we have always had these same similarities. And with AI, same thing. She's going in, they're required, to have an iPad or have this tablet or have this tool that's going to allow them to take notes for their patient in ways that they didn't before. And very similar to the 911 center, it is those who are younger, the younger doctors, the younger healthcare providers who are all about it. And it's the, crusty old doctors who are like, I'm never using that. I'm like, it's just like 911.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think with every one of those instances that you mentioned, it's always been really that fear of the unknown. I mean, even in general, everyone has a fear of the unknown, right? And no one likes change, but especially that fear of the unknown. What is going to happen? And I just thinking about it now as you were talking about it, it made me think about kind of the comparison between, like you said, the kind of the older crusty doctors and the newer students. It's the same. Yeah, like you said in dispatch, where you've got people that are coming in, they want to go ahead and try it, but there's others that are like, no, it's not going to work. But once you start getting into it, even with some of those who are like, I've never done this before, and you've got the other doctors who are saying, well, you're going to learn, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to do it, and that kind of threw me back into like some of my days in training, where I would say, "Okay," they would say, "Are you ready to go on your own?" And I remember saying, "No, no," and that's even with like 4 years of experience in dispatch. But that was it was a single seat PD that I started out in, and then working in a central dispatch with the team. I was like, "No, I'm not ready," and they go, "Yeah, you are." But that's all I needed, right? That's what I needed to be able to have some of that confidence as well. And I think we're going to see that maybe with Dr. Robbie, with these things that are going on, that there's going to be some moment later on in the season where he embraces it, and we'll be able to talk about it then as well. But there's just so many different things. Like, Keely, where do you think some of this is going in, I guess, even in the next episode that's coming on? I mean, all I can see is Louis in my head right now.
I
But
know, Louis.
yeah.
All right. So something that Ben brought up, right? Like, and it goes back to the parallels, right? He was watching a supervisor trying to make sure he had some oversight of what was going on in the room. And that transcription was able to give them a quick summary of what was happening. Now, remember in that episode 5, there is a scene where Dr. Hashimi and Dr. Rabi are talking about they like to know everything that's going on with all of the patients in their ED, right? So here's a great example of, well, they wouldn't know what was going on with Santos's patients because Santos is 20 charts deep right now and has not been able to get that online so that they do know what's going on and where they are with those patients. But wouldn't it be interesting if there was some sort of something or software that they could go in and be like, oh, this is where we're at. This is my oversight. This is a summary of the patient that was brought in. And now let's talk about your traumatic. Like, this is a trauma hospital, right? Let's talk about your traumas that have come in via EMS who maybe had this already transcribed for them that they can now pass off to the ER and say, hey, this is what's going on with the patient. Now they've got a quick summary of like, this is it. This is what's going on. There's also something else that happens that I think is very interesting. We have, of course, our influencers, right? we had a guy who came in was branded with dry ice.
Oh, that's
And
right.
his brother videotaped that. Now, what if we were able to pass that off to our 911 centers, pass that off to EMS? EMS is now able to pass it off to the ER. They didn't have to wait for the brother to come in to show what was done and how it was done and how long it was done and how long that dry ice was on. That's going to affect and impact patient care upon arrival in a trauma center, right?
Mhm.
So it's like when you think of the scary things like turning on your cameras, first of all, I don't know a software out there, no matter what's working for you in wherever corner of the world that you're using this live video, they all come in blurred. That was something that a lot of our companies out there, our vendors in the space are like, hey, listen, maybe dispatch doesn't want to see that, but maybe dispatch wants to pass it off to their field, right? Or maybe dispatch wants to put this in an archive somewhere so that when they are your domestic violence, right? Your DVs, that's where some of these cases are being used where they're turning on the video. Dispatch doesn't need to watch it, but dispatch can pass that off so that when they're going before a judge now has eyes on the scene instead of it being a he said, she said, right? So these are like thinking outside of the box on ways to use some of the technology that's been being, sitting in front of us that we have our hands on that maybe we're a little, trepidatious about using. Like, so in this situation, they had this video, and this could have been a series of events that happened prior to arrival, and now they have patient care. You've got Dr. Robbie who wants to know what's going on in his ER or what's coming into his ER, and maybe there's a transcription that has been passed off to him that has come all the way from the 911 call. Because I don't know about the three of you or the three of us in the room, or maybe even Ben. Ben, you probably have seen this because you've been in so many ECCs at this point. But how many times has what happened on that call not been the same as what happened in the field? And then you get to the ER, and I can attest to this. The family shows up and they're like, oh, XYZ, this is what happened. And you're like, well, that would have been great to know 10 minutes ago. Right? Like, so it's like when you're thinking about the holistic from call to field to pass off to OR, imagine all of the information. You've got the woman that's there now with the creeping death on her leg right now. That's actually what we used to call it. It's not the appropriate term, but creeping death is what we would call that on her leg, right? And now what if we had that transcription that had been passed off? Who knows if Dr. Langdon had gotten to that chart that day to talk about it, and then she left and she came back. But if we had, he's in triage. I imagine his charts look worse than Santos's charts right now, right? But if he was able to just bring something with him that's listening to him talk to the patient, that is now given that pass off that he can put eyes on 30 seconds, take a look, make sure check it for accuracy, and then punch it out the space. And now when she returns, they are able to look at it instead of having to go to him and say, what happened? Right? Like this, it's just, go ahead, Ben, go ahead.
Just like thinking, I didn't mean to jump in on you, but like just thinking about the manual, page surgery, like get them on the phone. It's like, golly, that is just such I think about that continuity of care and that like inefficiency there that could be like handled through faster interoperability amongst all these different systems, more awareness that the surgery team knows exactly who's coming in, charts are updated, status is correct, and they can go in and be like, oh wow, okay, like we got something going on here. This person's been, etc. It just, I don't know, it kind of infuriated me in some ways. And then Robbie did that like insane, I don't know what he called it, cement treatment or something. I was like, what world? It was a very, very disturbing cut that he made on her leg. I was like, I hope I'm never in that situation.
Yeah, we were sitting there when it got to that moment and just building up, just like you're saying, building up and building up and building up. So finally he's like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I feel like a lot of us in public safety, there are some moments where we just get it done because that's what we need to do. In those moments, it needs to be done. And for him in that moment, there was already time, right? And it was going up towards, it was almost to her knee or above her knee, I believe. And he goes, if it goes any further, I mean, it's gonna get worse. And finally, he did his cut. I will just, like you were saying, I'll just say he did his cut. And I remember Keely goes like this, and I sat forward and I said, are they actually going to show? They are showing it. I was like, all right. for those who are watching and listening, if you've not watched episode 5 yet, there are some moments where you're like, it is kind of jaw dropping there a little bit, but then afterwards we're like, oh man, that was actually cool. Or at least Keely and I did. I don't know if others would, but because of our backgrounds, I was like, that was kind of awesome. All right, let's continue.
But he forced the hand, right? And
Yeah.
like, like you said, there's like all these analog processes that happen there where they're like, call this, that, and the other thing. But imagine if we could take something like Harmony, who's listening for keyword triggers, and it alerts the surgical team that this is what's coming in. Now that call has been placed before that patient has hit the ER door, right? Because now they're like, oh, there's a trauma coming in, overturn, entrapment, amputation of the right arm, whatever. Those words, those key words are now flagging the surgical team. So now upon arrival, instead of having to call and be like, yes, we're confirming we need surgery or we need an OR room open, they already know. And they're clearing that. And now you're talking about that golden hour, right, is now reduced. And now you're getting these patients in there. And now you're doing those things in such a timely fashion. And you're treating this. And, creeping death was a little bit different of a situation, but it still would have been something. Yeah, sorry about the spoilers. We're so sorry.
We did say in the beginning, spoiler alert. So
spoiler alert.
This
spoiler
is from
alert,
last week, though.
Last week.
From last week, not from yesterday.
Not last night. Not last night. We've done this on purpose. But yeah, so like, Amy, what are your thoughts on this? Like, do you see a future where, I don't know, Rapid SOS's technology is pushing that information even faster and even into the hands of, say, maybe a surgery team that, upon that 911 call, they're flagging these things that are coming up and like saying like, hey, you might need to think about this. You might need to be in the ER or clear something out.
So you're pulling me into a conversation that I get really, really excited about. So I think there is the Harmony piece and the AI piece and what's happening on that call. But like we've already kind of talked about, a lot of times we're getting information from somebody who has partial information. Maybe they're in, they're in a crisis situation. They're very excited and they're not giving us the right information. And once, even a police officer gets on scene or fire and EMS get on scene somewhere, they find something very different. So we're not just talking about getting, the call and summarization and transcription into the 911 center. We're actually bringing data into the 911 center. And we've been doing that for a number of years, right? So just last week, actually, I had the opportunity to speak at the Department of Transportation at an event hosted by NHTSA, the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration. And it's not the first event like this we've had. It was larger than last time, but we're talking about how we get crash data to the healthcare system and sharing data just across the ecosystem. But Keely, you just said something a minute ago about the golden hour. And there were two surgeons who were on a panel and we're talking about that golden hour. And they actually said, we need to get that down to diamond seconds. And so we in the 911 center today, Rapid SOS is able to deliver that rich AACN, that advanced automatic crash notification at the time of an event or just after that event, comes to the 911 center, phone calls coming in, maybe it's a safety agent, maybe it's the person in the car, they're giving information, but we have this rich, robust data set of information that's going into the 911 center that tells them how many people were in the car, where the impact was it a rollover, were there airbags deployed, were seat belts on? If you know that there were 4 seat sensors and only 2 seat belts were on, that's and the impact was X. Now are you looking for an ejection? Like there's just so many pieces of information that if we can take that Harmony and help make sense out of that data in a moment for the telecommunicator, they can send a more efficient response. But it doesn't stop there, right? So the hospital needs to know about that before the ambulance is pulling up at the ER driveway saying, oh, I've got a trauma patient. So when that happens and there's a lot of effort going around kind of standardizing what that incident severity is so that it can be the same language across the ecosystem. But if they know this at the time of incident, now that accident that's an hour and a half from a trauma center, they can know about it at that time and start getting resources there, not when the ambulance is pulling up and being, oh, we have to call people in at 3 a.m. and they still have that travel time. Now we've saved not just minutes, and when we talk about minutes and seconds saving lives, we maybe saved hours before that person's getting the actual treatment they need to help save their life or to save that limb. So there's so many applications here and overlap in kind of what we're doing in the field and how we need to share that information beyond just picking up the phone and saying, oh, heads up, you have somebody coming in, but I don't have any information.
That's exciting because I think about, as you're talking about this, days when I was in dispatch, and we're talking like the end of 20, well, throughout my time at the central dispatch that I was at, but especially towards the end of 11, or I'm sorry, 2012 going into 2013. I just remember a lot of medicals that we would get, and I remember a lot of the folks, like, they would be calling to the ER over their radio to let them know what they were en route with, because they've got, connections there. But with what you're saying, I mean, that saves even that much more time, because this is at the end when they're en route, and we're giving them their time or whatever for them en route to the ER, and then they're making their call, like, this is what we have coming in. But as you said, if you're able to do that at the time that it's already coming in, they're already going to be getting prepared. So that is awesome for them to get ready for that and have that information, especially through what Rapid SOS can provide. And I just love that. That whole dynamic. Now we are going to be going into the wrap up actually of this. I say this all the time that we do this. We're slated for 30 minutes, but we're at 46:07 because this is how it happens. But it's also that's why these conversations are so important, for all of you to be able to hear this in our comparison. I just love how we can continue to compare things that are going on with the show, with 911, with public safety, and show all of these different things that are going on, but especially that life-saving technology that Rapid SOS provides in so many different ways. And I'm excited to see and hear, but I'm also jealous, as I've said, that I am not in dispatch to be able to do this, to also have that satisfaction that a lot of others have, being able to put this to use. But I get to at least hear about it and live through others, so I love it so much. So as we go into the wrap of this, because I know a few people have to drop off as well, I just want to get a final take. Where do you think this is going towards the next episode? And Ben, I'll start with you. I don't know if you've seen a preview or if you know anything, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, well, I will say the reason I changed my bet is I was like just thinking about this episode the whole week, and like I remember seeing a trailer, and like I feel like that's informing my bet a little bit. So, but yeah,
So
where
you're
is this going to go?
cheating.
I mean, like trailers are a sanctioned thing. You
This
don't
is true.
have
This is
all
true.
the details. It's not. It's not like you can't watch a trailer. But so I changed my bet and I doubled down. So we'll see. Where is this going? Gosh, I have no idea. I hope Louis is okay. I hope they bring him back. I don't know. That was a very sad moment. I mean, it's just such a compelling drama. So I'm excited to watch it. I'm watching the next episode tonight. It's our date night, so
That's right.
We'll be watching it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what they say.
All right, excellent. Amy, how about yourself?
So I'm going to pull a Ben and I'm going to change my bet too. So I actually think maybe it's a bomb threat. Like we got those all the time in 911. So maybe they're dealing with a bomb threat at the hospital. I agree. Louis, super sad. Hopefully he turns out that he pulls through and they can save him. There's a lot of questions around the student that came in. They kind of dropped little hints around that, but that student came in very agitated. That seems a little bit outside of his normal behavior. So kind of hits home a little bit. My husband is a retired police chief, but he works at a college campus now as a chief. So, he's dealing with students on a regular basis, and there's just so many dynamics and influences that impact, the choices they make, the things that occur on campus. So, that's kind of something that stuck out to me. Like, what's going on with that young kid? There seems to be several things at play there.
It's going to be interesting. Keely, yourself?
I think we might have to tee up Amy's husband to join us next week as well to get his take on college campus crisis, because I bet there's going to be some mass incidents and things like that, and how we better plan and prepare for those things. So tell Lauren he might be one of our next guests and to put his makeup on, because it'll be good to get some perspective from the field as well. But now we're going to have to extend it to an hour because all of us have something to say. And Ben has managed to find himself back on our show for the second week in a row. So
Let's see if I show up again.
It'll be amazing. It'll be amazing. But definitely, I think, there's something to be said about that student as well. And I know I mentioned we still have this baby. Nobody has gotten back. They're pulling security footage right now, right, for this. And that's what Dana had said was happening. So interested to see kind of what's going on there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to continue and see where all of this is going. And a big thanks to Ben and Amy for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and drop your windows down, and you can drop if you need to. We're going to go into our wrap up here. But again, thank you both very, very much. And Keely, this has been very fun as usual. You and I were laughing like crazy in the green room before we went live, and what were we saying? Oh, okay, we need to pull it together.
We need to get a little serious, right? You gotta have a conversation. But it's so much fun, and it's so I love getting other perspective, like from the product team. Ben does so much great work around here, and Amy is a force in the field of 911, and listening to like the conversations coming from doctors that are out there having conversations at the NHTSA, which is such a it keeps getting bigger and bigger every year, because we're talking about this pre-arrival, how do we get the information out there? So hearing that they want to get it down to the diamond second, and it's like, we can do that. And it's like, I feel like I'm working on a mission for a company that wants to do that, and that's like, I think it's just to see what I started with in the field and then moving on to 911 and what we started with there. I mean, I had punch cards, for God's sake, and dot matrix printers and reel-to-reel recorders that I had to stop at 2:00 in the morning and rewind, which meant for like 45 minutes, nothing was being recorded, to now cloud-based recording systems. And I could access it from my cell phone if I needed to get something off for discovery in, little to no time. It's just, I think it's just where this has come from and where it's going. And there's such a future of, narrowing that gap and fixing all of the gaps that are out there in space. I think it's, making everything safer together.
I love it. I couldn't have said it any better. And I'm just proud to be able to, partner with a company that has just so mission forward, like a lot of things that I've done as well. So to be able to be a part of a lot of things that Rapid SOS is doing is just amazing. I mean, I posted recently that the company has become not just a partner but also a sponsor of the podcast Within the Trenches, and I had posted this on social media, and the amount of people who have reacted and commented and said this is like the best thing ever. I mean, one of the comments that I remember from one of the little clips that I posted for this partnership and everything was someone in 911 who said Rapid SOS is the best thing to happen to 911 like ever. And I thought, damn, that says a lot. So very well done with this whole thing that we're doing here. Just want to say, shout out to especially, HBO Max, who put on that event, but also Rapid SOS, who sponsored the event and inviting us to be there and experience everything that was going on a few weeks back when we were out in Pittsburgh for that event. So that was awesome. For those who are watching, listening, if you've not watched The Pit yet, make sure to check it out. It is streaming on HBO Max, and season 2 is out there, and it streams Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific. And for anything else on Rapid SOS, make sure to check out Rapid SOS, rapidsos.com. You can find everything there on their website. You can check them out all over social media as well for videos, clips, information, all types of things that are going on. Rapid SOS, safer together, the leading AI public safety company. Keely, thank you very much, and we'll be back next week. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye, everyone.